everybody. Welcome to the 17th and best episode of the Hashcast. And as always, I have a guest that is cooler than myself, smarter than myself, and infinitely better dressed than myself. My good friend, Dr. B.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing all right.
Yeah. So
it's early.
It's early, yeah, I know. It's about noon here, and we were talking off camera. I was like, I never do these in the morning, so now I have coffee instead of whiskey. But it's pretty nice. So, Dr. B, I know who you are, but for the two listeners that I have and that might not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, and where did you come from?
Well, boy, it's early enough here that I really wanted to bust into lyrics from Cotton Eye Joe right there. I'm here in Seattle, so it's a few hours earlier than noon. Mm-hmm. But I am the clinical director of TakeThis.org. I am a doctor of clinical psychology, and I'm very passionate about mental health. Obviously, I got my doctorate. And I love being in the games industry these days and helping people out in any way I can, especially with Take This's mission of destigmatizing mental health and basically making it okay to not be okay.
Yeah, well, that's good, because Take This was one of the first organizations that I knew outside of gaming, and that's where I met you at E3, I think, for the first time.
2016.
Yeah,
that was a good E3.
That was a good E3, and then you introduced me to Habitica, which I did a feature on for Polygon because they liked it so much that they said yes to a pitch of me. So it all comes together in what a great influence you are in everybody's life here. But I clearly love the organization. Take This, the AFK rooms that I've used several times in all my conferences is really a blessing for everybody. But so you're a doctor. You're Dr. B. How did you make that connection from having I assume you had a practice before you broke into the games industry. How did that work exactly?
Well, I was actually I just was done being a student. I just recently graduated, and a colleague and friend in the Seattle area was the first local coordinator for the AFK room the first time it came to Seattle at PAX West, and that was 2014. And she and I had trained together. And she called me up and asked, would you like to hang out at PAX and help out gamers in a mental health space that is this brand new thing? And I just need you for one day. And my response was, how about all the days? It was just such a cool idea. And the next year, 2015, I did the same thing. I volunteered every possible day I could and, just talking, hanging out with everybody. And then many months later, one of the founders of Take This, the very first clinical director, Dr. Mark Klein, decided who was ludicrously busy, he needed to step back and focus on some other things. And our previous executive director, still head of the board of directors, Russ Pitts, who's one of our founders, called me and said, "Hey, you speak nerd, you speak clinical. Yeah. Do you want to be our clinical director?" And I was like, okay.
Okay. Well, that worked out for the best, I would say.
I love it. I didn't know I was accidentally stumbling into my dream job.
Yeah. Just to get a good idea, like, what does a clinical director do for an organization like Take This?
Well, it's
except for everything.
Well, it's a changing thing, because when I started with Take This a little over 2.5 years ago, we were like 3 people, maybe 4. Yeah. And we still have a very small paid group of staff members because we're a nonprofit. Yeah. But at this point, we've expanded further. We now have a program manager for the AFK room, who that's a recent addition. She's absolutely amazing. We now have somebody who manages our content, and I largely oversee that. So I oversee the program direction, give my stamp of approval on ideas people have. and I get to go do a lot of panels and talk to people. I get to do podcasts like this, which is excellent.
Yes, it's
and I just get to I get to talk to people. I get to build relationships and a lot of strategic oversight of anything in the organization that's clinically related. So really any questions that are clinically oriented, I have to weigh in on.
Yeah, and how does it feel? Because I have seen you on several panels at PAX, and you're quite the presence at those things. So you go from just being a clinical director to having an audience. Like, how do you deal with that? Do people come to you because they recognize, hey, that's Dr. B from the panel I've seen? Like, that's 600 people you're talking to at the same time. That is not your regular patient room, I assume, that you have right there.
Yes and no, but it's weird because my career paths were always between being an actor and, being a shrink. And my dad once said something that he later regretted because I listened to it.
Okay.
And he said that if you're not willing to starve for your art, if you're not willing to give up food for your art, you probably shouldn't do it as a career.
Okay.
And I thought about that and I was like, acting's fun. I'd rather eat.
Yeah.
And once I have food, I can act.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And I can do it without relying on it as a career. And so I got my doctorate in psychology, and it's still fun to bring up at parties because I think I'm the only person who has a father who's angry he didn't become an actor.
Is your father an actor? Or?
No, but he was an opera singer before I was born.
Okay. So it's somewhat the stage is in the family at least.
Yeah, I mean, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I was always a little dramatic. But I also have to say that I was partially drawn to trying acting at a young age because we later found out I'm mildly on the autism spectrum, and learning to act helped me to, as another friend of mine and colleague who is also on the autism spectrum, acting helped me learn to human a little better.
Yeah. It's funny because you were like a prime human when I talked to you, but until you mention it, and I know one of the panels I saw you opened with "Any Aspies in the house," and I thought it was pretty funny because, like you say, like the stigma around mental illness is always there. You're very open about it, but you could never tell. Do you think that's a problem that people cannot tell when the first time they meet you? Like, do you ever run into problems where you're like, oh shit?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double. I actually had a bit of a snafu recently where, if you ever watch the TV show Bones, those moments where she's just being factual and it just comes off a certain way. Yeah, if I'm not paying attention, and I've lost track of how many good friends came to me later and said, I didn't like you when we first met because I thought you were arrogant. I thought you were a know-it-all. And then I got to know you a little bit better. And I realized that was just, no, you're actually really nice. And unfortunately, I think my Asperger's, the fact that I'm able to hide it as well as I do is a real double-edged sword. Yeah. Because I don't know, the best analogy I can come up with is if I spoke a second language, like if English was not my first language and I had a really thick accent, people would be, I think, really understanding if I messed up a word. Yeah. In a really maybe a hilarious way. I wanted to say the word shift, but instead, oh shit. Okay. I shit into second gear. I don't know. Yeah. If I had a really thick accent, I think people would be really understanding about that, but I don't. No. I've worked really hard to try and basically speak neurotypical. Yeah. Because it's the language the rest of you speak. I mean, I might be operating on a different OS, but the rest of you aren't. Yeah. And I think I have to try and speak it at least enough. But so when I do mess up, it's more stark when I do. And so I don't know. It's a really invisible thing, and I go back and forth with how to feel about it. It's complicated. Yeah, it is. Just for the record, when I met you the first time, I thought you were a lovely, lovely person. Well, thank you. And that's why you're still on the show. No.
But
thank you.
like I have seen you help so many people with just what I've seen you do, and that is I only see the service clearly when I am in the AFK room. I helped you out there once, and I seen you on the panel. But we have played Dungeons and Dragons together once, and that was not by accident. Because what is your relationship with the Dungeons and Dragons game? Which is a very rhetorical question, because I know, but that's how radio works.
Well, I sleep with the books regularly. I think we have a very close relationship.
Yeah. Very, very close. The gelatin cubes and.
So I have been playing role-playing games for now like 23 years since high school. I mean, that's a common story we hear from a lot of people. But many years ago, probably about 7-8 years ago, I thought I had this brilliant idea that nobody else had come up with for using Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games in this applied therapeutic way. So excited. I called up the same friend who eventually became the first coordinator for the AFK room. I was like, oh my God, I have this amazing idea. I have this amazing idea. And we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. And she said, okay, first, calm down. Second, my organization's already doing it that she was interning for because she introduced that idea. I was like, oh, seriously? Yeah. How are you doing it? And we started talking about it. And eventually I started working for that organization, doing social skills, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. And then slowly through some, this organization's called Aspiring Youth. It's a social skills program in Seattle that works with kids anywhere from age 8 to 28. And through that, I got featured on the Dragon Talk podcast at Wizards of the Coast. Some people started reaching out. I also met some other people in the area, in the Seattle area, and I found out there were a lot of people doing this, but everybody's doing it piecemeal. Yeah. And we're starting to get together thanks to efforts of some other folks like Adam Davis and Adam Johns of the nonprofit Game to Grow, who I think are probably the best ambassadors out there for what we all do. And we all started hanging out more. We all started talking more. Dr. Megan Connell and Dr. Ryan Kelly over on the East Coast with Southeast Psych and Geeks Like Us on YouTube. We all hang out, and we actually all now stream together under the title Clinical Role, because it's all therapeutic DMs who are just hanging out. Yeah. And incidentally, I'm also co-authoring a day-long training for clinicians on how to use applied role-playing games. I'm co-authoring that with Dr. Megan Kelly. Megan Connell.
Megan Kelly?
Wow. Megan, boy, they're going to kill me for that one, because I can just now picture, Dr. Megan with Ryan's beard and
Photoshop. Yeah.
Oh, God. But Dr. Megan and I are co-authoring this day-long training for clinicians on how to use applied D&D, and I'm also in the middle of writing chapter 1 on a book on that. Okay, that I've got a lot of great authors lined up for the subsequent chapters.
Yeah. What is we played one session with What's Good Games at PAX East. That was a lot of fun. Are you the DM, or are you one of the players, or do you take shifts, or how does it work?
Well, with Clinical Role, Dr. Megan is our DM.
Okay.
I'm one of the players. I play the elf Emerald, who has we all wanted to feature mental health challenges in a non-stigmatizing way, because that's what we all do. Yeah. And it's been an interesting thing to explore that. Emerald came up abandoned and poor as a pickpocket. And I like to say his origin story is not at all the same as Storm, Aurora Monroe, at all whatsoever. Yeah. Because he was a really talented pickpocket, and then he picked the pocket of a monastery abbot who basically rescued him from the street and taught him to be a monk. Yeah. And so we kind of explore the lingering effects of neglect, physical deprivation, and emotional deprivation, and how he's been a monk for a long time, but man, he's still got a lot of anger to work out.
Okay, I'm just like, to me that is Dungeons & Dragons like at the next level. And I like you say everybody's already doing it, but I would have never thought of it. But how does a typical session go when you have, is it 4 people or 5? 4
or 5 ideally. Yeah. I mean, like any other D&D game.
Because most of my Dungeons & Dragons experiences are like the one from the 10-year-old video, like, are there Doritos?
God, yes, the dead alewives.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's kind of my experience. But if you have all these professionals around the table, do you actually work things out during those sessions, or is it more for the viewers that are watching you play?
Well, so Clinical Role isn't a therapeutic game.
No.
Let's be really clear about that. An applied therapeutic role-playing game is very different in that there's basically 3 parts to it. And if we think about a typical role-playing game as, you have a DM or a GM, if you're not playing D&D, who is engaging in what amounts to transgressive play. I mean, we don't play as adults.
No.
Sure, we have simulations, we have skill building trainings, but we don't play overtly. And in order to have a good DM, you have to have someone who's willing to play.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have to have a DM who is well versed in the game system you're using. And that's complicated enough because you've got, 5 people at the table and you're trying to navigate the wants and the needs of not only the players, but if we think about their characters as a different level, you've got to negotiate their needs as well. And navigate between those levels easily. I mean, I think we all know the classic story of the angry gazebo. That's always a funny story to tell people who have never played the game.
Can you tell the story for the angry gazebo for those who have not known?
Okay. Sorry, I forget. There's people outside this universe. God. So it's an old story about a player who doesn't know what the word gazebo means, and as the DM is describing that, you come to a field. There's a gazebo in the field 50 feet away, and the player, not realizing what his character is seeing, like, is the gazebo angry? And the DM's like, it's a gazebo. Well, I carefully walk around the gazebo to see what it does. It sits there. It's a gazebo. I shoot the gazebo.
I love this.
With why? Why? And I shoot the gazebo with my arrow. What happens? It's a gazebo with an arrow sticking out of it. Is it angry? Dude, it's a gazebo. Okay, I get slowly closer. You know what? I'm done with this. The gazebo eats you.
That is my experience, Dungeons and Dragons, right there.
Right, and so you have to navigate that in and of itself. But when you do applied therapeutic D&D, you have to add another level into it entirely, and that is this level of knowing how to conceptualize the needs of each person at the table. How to appropriately intervene to pick a psychological intervention that fits not only within the framework of that conceptualization, but of the game system itself. And you have to somehow add this 4th level of making all of this applicable to the real world on a psychological basis. It's extremely complicated. And it's why anytime we, any of us do a talk, and so how can we do what you do? Are you a therapist? No, become a therapist.
Okay. Just become a therapist.
But it's awesome. It's fun. And I think it can be really powerful because you can have people feel the sense of mastery and accomplishment without knowing that they're practicing this sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just so intrigued by this. And I think I was a little confused with what you do on stream and what you do with the applied sessions. But how
we just play on stream?
Okay, that's just. But still, you're all like a bunch of like super highly educated people that are super into it. Is it hard to leave the job at the office when you play, or do you always, because you do this so often, does it always sneak in a little bit?
I think just about every therapist I know has those stories about people at a party. If you know the typical conversation you have at a party where you're like, what do you do for a living? And like, oh, I do X, Y, and Z. You're a shrink? Yeah. Are you judging me? No. Are you judging me? Well, no. You're judging me. Well, I am now. But so's everybody.
No,
you turn it off.
Okay. That's cool, because I have trouble turning my non-job off now every now and then. But who would you recommend? Would you recommend to anyone to watch this Clinical Role? Or is it just the same as what's the other big show that has the roll word in it?
Oh God, I don't know. Something about
with a C. I don't know.
Critter?
Critter Role.
Oh,
Yeah, I think something
Critter
like
Role.
that. Yeah.
That's a gremlin thing, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But so it's not. It's just fun watch you guys work. Work in that world.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. We have fun doing it, and it's a no pressure thing for us. We just get together, we hang out, and like any newbie streamers, I think we're constantly refining and getting better. But it's, at this point, it's not even on a regular schedule. We just, when are we all free? When are we all not working? Okay. When are we all not at conferences? Yeah. And our DM's at Gen Con right now she's got 2 panels this weekend. Yeah.
Now I got to tune into that. Dungeons & Dragons is such a game. I always want to play it, but I always say like all my friends are too cool. Which is not true, obviously, because now all this stuff they feel too cool for Dungeons & Dragons still. I know. It's my real life friends, man. They all suck. You hear that?
Come hang out. I mean, you're at some of the same shows I am.
I know.
Let's do this.
I want to do it so bad. Although, like, I thought I would be like, oh, I would be super good at Dungeons & Dragons, and I played with you. I'm like, oh shit, he actually knows what he's doing. But our characters got along.
I liked your character.
Yeah, it was a pre-made character, so it's. I kind of had to get used to that because it wasn't like my creation, what I would love to have made myself. But we only had an hour or so can't do much in an hour.
Yeah, but that's almost more fun in a lot of ways because you have to. It's kind of like playing an improv game, which is essentially what Dungeons and Dragons is. Mm-hmm. Somebody else gives you the character, and you have to decide, okay, what do I do with these parameters that somebody else is dictating? And I thought you did a great job. It was fun to play off of you.
Yeah, well, it was fun, but it's hard to manage when you have a Christine Steimer shooting everybody in the face.
Oh, that was fun though.
Yeah, managing Brittany Braunbacker, who's just an orc who's looking for her bacon. And then
be nasty.
Andrea setting everything on fire. It was.
Oh my God! It was okay with Steimer there and her character being all sorts of salty, and me imagining my character being 8 kinds of naive. It was so fun.
It was
just to basically violate every social norm just to watch her character grumble.
Yeah, no, it was hilarious. Like, it's too bad we were unable to capture that somehow, but maybe at a next conference we'll manage to do that. But I just love how you use play for all kinds of stuff. So is that kind of why like games are a big part of what you do right now in the games industry? Did you always have that connection, and did it just work out magically, or what came first?
Well, I mean, I've been a gamer my whole life. Yeah. I mean, actually, up in the corner there is one of my prized collections, and that is the first 70 issues of Nintendo Power.
Oh my goodness!
And yeah, it's something I will probably never get rid of. Mm-hmm. I think issue number 1's in a frame actually framed and hung on a wall off camera, maybe in my office. I don't remember, but either way, I've always been a gamer. I still have my Nintendo from 1985. I still have my Sega Genesis, my Super Nintendo. There's a Game Boy from 1989 floating around here. It's a wonderful thing to be able to just have a passion like that. And I just started doing other things because I know I always wanted to help people. Yeah. But eventually I just started taking extra time and volunteering with Take This. And I was so enthusiastic about that, and they liked me well enough that an opportunity fell in my lap. Mm-hmm. So it's to answer your question, little from column A, little from column B.
Okay. Well, that's how you get the perfect combo. And I'm glad it worked out for you because, like I said before, like we couldn't do this without you. But so you operate in the gaming space. But when you look at games in itself, like recently we had the whole conversation again about like bad influence, good influence. I don't care about the bad influence because I don't believe in that story. But about good influence, like what are some of the games that or would you? Where you look at how the game is done and you're like, wow, this is a great example on either representing mental illness as well, or this is someone who could actually benefit from this type of game or play. Is there anything out there that people like? I like to highlight these examples of doing it very well. What is a perfect game Just the top of your head. I maybe should have sent this email earlier than.
No, impromptu. You get to watch me squirm. It's great. Just this is your version of the gotcha question, making me pick a favorite child. One of the things that is really interesting that's coming out of psychological literature is this idea that interactive media can, in some respects, be a better mood regulator than non-interactive media, like watching a movie or listening to music. And which means that just about any video game, anything that you engage in can be a good way of sort of escaping things for a little while. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is up to personal meaning. In fact, Dr. Anthony Bean had a great book that just came out last month about working with video games and gamers. Yeah. And he highlights different gamer profiles in terms of what people are looking for. Now, let's say for me, I'm having a bad day. I want to immerse myself in a story, which is why I love single player RPGs. Yeah. Love them. There's a few people I still curse for introducing me to Divinity Original Sin 2. Oh my goodness. I'm so angry at them because I can lose myself in that game. Yeah. The fact that Brittany Brombacher, she has it all over her social media posts. I'm so angry with her for you're making me want to play this more. But Skyrim may be my favorite game of all time. Really? I still have my copies of Final Fantasy 2, US version, of course. And Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 1, Dragon Warrior 1 through 3. I mean, I love RPGs because it allows me to immerse myself in a different role. Now, for some people, maybe first-person shooters are their jam because it allows them to focus on a target and have a challenge. I think it's largely up to each individual person what they get out of it and what they're looking for. So in that respect, I can't think of any one game that I would consider perfect for everybody.
No, I guess that's also not a very fair question. It's funny that you mentioned Skyrim because I hate Skyrim and I always bring it up. It's just,
really?
Yeah, I know.
That surprises me.
I know. It's I probably told the story like 15 times already, but it bugged out on me after 40 hours. Because I didn't do the quest in the right order or whatever, and that meant a door was locked that I needed for the main quest, and I could not press it, and I just flipped the table, returned the game, and have been salty about it ever since.
They fixed all those bugs.
I know, but I'm gonna have to bring this up now. Have you ever played Dragon's Dogma, Dr. B?
I don't know this.
Dragon's Dogma.
I'm intrigued.
It is the best game in the world. It is an RPG. Which people might say has a weird story, but as I always say, if you play through it 8 times, it's an amazing story. It doesn't sell itself super well in the story, I guess, but the gameplay is like top notch. And I talk about Dragon's Dogma on every episode of my show, so I'm kind of trying to sneak it in here.
Okay, well, I'm legitimately intrigued, and I think it's I'm going to have to look at it.
$13 on Steam right now.
Oh, it's outrageous. God,
it is. I know, right?
$13.
A whole $5 of coffee. But if you are super into RPGs, please check it out because I love that game so much. It's my favorite game, and I'm speedrunning it right now, and I'm 5th in the world currently with my record of the speedrun on Dragon's Dogma. I know, right?
What is your record?
18 minutes and 25 seconds.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding. But it's a special mode in this game where you can speedrun on your New Game Plus. So you get to keep all your items and all your fast travel points, and then you can just race through the quest line. And that's a built-in mode with a timer on screen. But only 6 people speedrun Dragon's Dogma, so it's not a super huge achievement.
Well. Well, I'm curious. You said building mode. Do you remember the Super Nintendo game ActRaiser?
No.
Oh my God, it was so cool. So it was really unique in that it was half Sim City and half platform slasher.
Okay.
So it was, you played this basically this avatar sent from the divine force above, and you had to help the citizens build up their town, build up their cities. In a sustainable way, and you could, of course, create miracles because of divinity powers and all that. But every now and then, you built towards like a monster lair, and you had to, come down into this statue that was, very noble looking with a big sword, and run through this side-scrolling platform level, hacking and slashing at the monsters in order to defeat the boss, clear out the cave, and get back to building your city, SimCity style.
Okay. Yeah, so
it was really cool.
Okay, so this is not to do with building. Like I said, building like your save game, like you have to build your perfect save. But it's fine. I'm now intrigued about this game as well. But yeah, you should check it out, Doctor. It's fantastic. But that game is my escape now, and I think to kind of unreal myself there. Like I have started to appreciate games on a different level now that I'm a little older, because I always went with games are my outlet, and it kind of is not an excuse, but like that's why I enjoy fighting games. But it kind of meant like I had all this anger inside of me. When you say it like that, I need an outlet, to. It's not really true. I think I'm leaning way more into escapism nowadays as well. And damn that Divinity Original Sin 2.
Right?
I know. It took me
so good.
I know, but it took me a while to really get into it.
Me too.
Like I loved the first one. I played that like several times in a row. But this one, it takes off so slowly. And then I just put on easy mode and just went through it because I could not do it anymore. But that is a fantastic game. So narrative experiences, I'll never tire of those, I think, as well. But I love how games have been a part of like everything really since I was 8 years old, I think. And what I love the most, I think now, what I appreciate is how people like yourself and other organizations like Enable Gamers are using the gaming space to do good. And I never imagined that would be a thing. And I'm so part of, like, people like you are part of it and others as well. So what is the, like, I know what the goal is for Take This, but what is when you're going to look back at your work, like what is the one thing that what do you want to be your legacy in your work at Take This right now?
One of the challenges of doing mental health work is you don't often get to see the results of what you do. And I mean, you talk about speaking to a large audience. I mean, if I've got 600 people in an audience, I can't meet every single one of them. I don't follow up with them. I can't, in all practicality. I don't know what they do with the information they get. But thanks to the magic of Twitter, every now and then people share with Take This the stories that they that they have, and their stories of triumph. And when people do that, it's a real gift. And there's a couple that stand out in my mind about doesn't matter whatever else happens in my career. I know that a difference was made in the lives of a couple of people, and nobody can take that away. No. There was, I'm not going to get into very specifics, but there was one case where somebody came to the NAFK room. I was the one who handled the situation, where they were actively suicidal. And I'm sorry to take such a dark turn on this, but what we do, mental health isn't always pretty. And this person came in, and it was incredible that they trusted us enough. We don't offer direct services in the AFK room. We don't offer therapy in the AFK room. What we offer is education and resources and a good holding space for people to wind down. And this person trusted us enough, and they came in with their friend and said, I want to kill myself. Can you get me help? And they trusted us enough to reveal that, and we were able to do that. And their friend came back the next day and said, my friend's okay. And thank you Take This for having this space and being the organization that you are, and creating enough safety for my friend to admit how much they were struggling. And that's just one of those memories that will be forever burned into my brain, to know that Take This has saved lives. And there have been people who our Hope Shield. So for those of you who don't know, Take This has a partnership with Wormwood Games. and they craft hardwood shields,
Yeah.
our logo for us, and it's a blind box, just like that, but right side up.
Yeah.
And
it was.
Was it? No, it was upside down. The shield was.
Oh yeah.
I swear to you.
Yeah, no, I had it.
I know our logo.
I know.
But the those hope shields are blind boxes, and if you wear men's jeans, so sorry, women who have no pockets, I know it sucks. For guys' jeans, it is perfect for the coin pocket.
Yeah.
And people have come to us later and said, I keep this around with me because somebody gave it to me, and it's a physical reminder that at least one person cares about me, and it's literally saved my life, knowing that one person cares. And so no matter what I do, no matter anything else, nobody gets to take that away, knowing that that kind of difference was made.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important to have an organization like Take This around. And I'm not sure if this is because I was not paying attention in life in general before I became active in the gaming space as well. And maybe it's because people in my new social circle in the industry are very open about mental illness. But I have never heard so much about it. Do you think it's and you might not be even want or be able to answer, do you think does the gaming space seem to have more people that deal with that, or is it just the people that we know in our circle are more open about it? Or do you think there's something about the gaming that attracts, but creates a safe environment for people to talk about? Like, I don't know, it feels like there's a higher proportion of people dealing with mental illness in my gaming circle than there is in my corporate circle, but that might just be the level of comfort they have in speaking about it. But that's just something I've been curious about lately, that it's just a coincidence, or is it because games offer this escapism, so it's natural that people that we meet there look for that? Like, I don't know, I can't even phrase this question.
No, it's a complicated question. Yeah. May I give it a shot?
Yeah, of course.
Basically what you're asking is, are mental health challenges more prominent in the games industry?
Yeah.
Or are we just more open in talking about it?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the perfect way to what I'm trying to say.
Well, anecdotally, we suspect that they're a little bit more common in the games industry, and here's why.
Yeah.
One of the things we know is the royal psychology, is that there are certain things that are more correlated, not causal, but correlated with higher incidence rates of mental health challenges. And, creativity is one of them. Introversion is another. And we don't know any creative introverts in the games industry, right?
No, not at all. Yeah.
But the reality is that even outside of the games industry, there is an estimated lifetime diagnosis rate of 1 in 4 in the United States. 25% of people will be diagnosed in their lifetime with a full-blown mental health diagnosis. That doesn't even count the severe challenges that we all face. That's a full-on diagnosis. And even that number is considered a little conservative by some. There are some studies, I think there was one at Harvard done a couple of years ago, that it's as high as 1 in 2.
Yeah.
And so that's common. And so part of the reason I suspect you weren't as aware of all of this before, starting to hang out with Take This is because there was no organization like Take This before Take This.
Yeah.
And our mission is to make people talk about it.
Yeah.
Bringing things out into the light of day is how you see them and how you stop fearing them.
Yeah.
And, thankfully we have allies like you. Thankfully we have great supporters all over the place who saw that we're beginning to talk about it beginning with our first panel that we ever did in 2013 at PAX East, the It's Dangerous to Go Alone, Take This panel that I think Susan Arendt and Russ Pitts and my predecessor, Dr. Mark Klein, our 3 founders all did. And the response was, why did no one think of this first, before now? And I can't speculate on why they didn't, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit of everything. You're hanging out with the people who are talking about it, but it's also common, no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And like I come from like the Netherlands, where stuff like this you don't talk about it often. Maybe it's different now. I've been gone for 10 years, so but recently I had a spell of some issues myself, and because of the work I've done with you guys and the people I know who are so comfortable about bringing it up, it took me by surprise, even me, and I still felt that cling of or that twinge of shame a little bit, like, wow, really, I had an anxiety attack at work. And even me, and I consider myself pretty open with everything I do. So what you're doing is helping. If I would not have known you or the organization or all the great people that we hang out with, I probably would have put that away. But now I felt comfortable enough to talk to my wife saying, look, I'm not well. I went to see a doctor. I went to see a psychologist, and I need to work through this. But I don't think I would have been able to do that because my upbringing of pushing it away, because you don't talk about it stuff, would probably have taken over, because it almost did. Even with everything I know and all the people I knew, it still almost did that to me. So the work you're doing is so important. You notice, like, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I think I still need to say it. That it cannot be understated how important it is, and that's why I want to talk to you today. And I always do what I can to support Take This as well, because it's so important what you do, and I love you guys for doing it, and I love that you are willing to talk about it. And if you are listening still, because when I have a guest, I sometimes forget we are not just having a conversation. Like, please check it out. And if you are dealing with problems yourself, just reach out. Like, it's dangerous to go along. I love that slogan. So check them out as well. So yeah, fantastic work.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to be honest with yourself, because it's, I think I wrote an article a couple years ago for Geek and Sundry where I had a silly example. It was just a really silly example, but the point of it was that a problem is a problem is a problem, no matter how big or small it is. And one of the things that I think it's really unfortunate that we do is we somehow try and quantify our own emotional suffering and compare it to other people's. And for some reason, if by whatever strange way we are quantifying our suffering, if they feel more of it, for some reason, we're not supposed to feel any of it. And that's just dumb. Yeah. But we all do it on a certain level. Yeah. And so, if I think about my father who suffers from PTSD, he raised around that. And, when he has anxiety, he has anxiety. Yeah. And, if I have anxiety to that, it doesn't mean that I don't have anxiety. It just means I'm dealing with it differently. And I'm so thrilled that you were able to spot that in yourself and be honest about it. And that's not an easy thing to do, to be brave like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm just glad I'm at a point in my life where I can do that. But do not underestimate how important it is that I have friends who are open about that, because otherwise it would have been a different problem. And again, that's why I always recommend everybody to check you guys out and go check out the panels. Like We're All Frauds panel is my favorite panel that I've ever seen at PAX East, and I think you can listen to it now on the YouTubes.
Yep, we've got the audio up.
Yeah, so I remember sitting in that panel, front row, listening to the panel, and it was super great. And then at the end, someone asked a question that I have been dealing with like for as long as I've been doing this whole thing that I'm doing in the space, where it was like, I feel that other people are always lifting me up, and I'm not sure how much of my success is because of me. And I like almost broke in the audience with like, that is exactly what I'm dealing with right now, because I have so many friends that are way more established than me, so much more talented than me, and they kind of like lift me up, I guess. I should not be on a panel with Andrea Renee on the What's Good Games panel,
you should.
But I'm still there, and I'm like, is it because I met her? Is it because we're friends? Or is it because I still have something that I have to add? But this episode 17, I clearly have something to say, although it's mostly my guests that are awesome.
Well, you know what? You bring up Andrea Renee. I saw a panel that she was on almost 2 years ago now. I think it was at PAX South. God, it's so weird that all the conventions blend together.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't work at gaming conventions, you do them enough and they actually start blending together. Yeah. It's weird.
It is.
But she was on a panel that was this amazing panel of incredibly successful industry women who of all different walks. One was a lawyer, one was a community manager, one was a journalist, and then Andrea is just this stellar on-air personality. And something she said stuck with me, and that's wherever you are, you earned it.
Yeah.
And it's so true. I mean, when that person in the audience asked that question, do you remember what my answer was?
I think it was something like trust the judgment of your friends.
Yeah, it was a lot more sarcastic, though. It was like, how much do you trust your judgment of your friends?
Yeah. And I guess that's true. And that was another thing. That's probably why I liked that panel so much, that I walked away from that saying, okay, I actually feel better about myself. So that's Dr. B, ladies and gentlemen. He'll make you feel better about yourself no matter where you are. Ta-da!
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, no, you're full of good advice, and you're just such a pleasant person to be around. Even if I don't know why people say they don't like you when they first meet you. Like,
it's usually because I'm not thinking about social niceties, and I just say something off the cuff and impulsive that isn't meant a certain way. But humaning is not my first language, so I always say I've gotten so good at apologies.
Yeah, you would make a perfect Dutch person and a perfect Canadian then, because the Dutch are kind of very direct and very matter of fact, and then all your apology skills could be applied to being Canadian. So you'd be like me then. Man.
I like to blame it on being raised Catholic because, guilt is a currency.
Oh, yeah. Well, fair enough. That works as well.
Oh my God. Oh man. But I'm so glad that, that panel was helpful to you, and it was helpful to, that really was a very special panel. Yeah. That was a really magical one. I mean, the panelists that we had such amazing stories to tell. And I highly encourage everybody to go listen to that. It can be found on TakeThis.org's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's one of we're working on slowly creating more content for that. But being a very small organization, editing takes time. So support us to help us have time and money to do that.
You should. Well, that's a good segue to my usually what I have as my closing segment, what I call Podcast and Shill, where you can promote whatever you like. And of course, I want to know where we can find you. So where can we find you with your brand new Twitter handle, sir?
Well, me personally?
Yeah, first you, and then we'll do the shill.
Well, okay. Personally, you can find me on Twitter at THEE Dr. B, DOCTORB as in boy, the Dr. B. But more importantly is find Take This at TakeThis.org.
Yeah.
And you can stay up to date on all the cool things we're doing, all the amazing things we're doing, including our brand new ambassador program, our streaming ambassador program that I'm so excited. We're going to be announcing our first class of ambassadors.
Please talk about it a little bit more.
Oh, happily.
Yeah.
So we've all seen, anybody who's into streaming, who watches streamers, has seen chat rooms derail, or even some streamers say, I believe largely unintentionally, just stigmatizing things towards mental health. So we wanted to find streamers who go above and beyond in making their chat spaces, their streams, inclusive, non-shaming environments for those who are dealing with emotional challenges, regardless of whether it's a diagnosis or not, but aren't going to shame you. If our goal is that if you see a Take This ambassador, an official Take This streaming ambassador, you're going to know what to expect. You're going to expect kindness. You're going to expect compassion. You're not going to expect therapy because they're not therapists, but you are going to expect them to be able to be supportive and compassionate while drawing that boundary. Yeah. And so I'm so excited. We're going to announce our first class of ambassadors at PAX West. I'm just so pumped about it.
That is, I'm probably not going to be at PAX West unless I land that new job and I send me to Seattle. In case
I'm hoping
that would be perfect.
I want to see you on my home turf.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
I'll take you. We'll go out and we'll get our version of poutine.
Oh, that sounds very interesting. That does sound very, but it's awesome. I when I saw the investor program, like, this is perfect. So also, Jeff Keighley, I know you're listening. This is the kind of gamer you want to highlight at your big show, and not like the people that always fuck it up the day after you give him an award. But you could avoid that by giving it to Steven Spahn or Andrea Renee instead of Dr. Disrespect. See, this is the best doctor. Like, you want a good doctor? Ask Dr. B, not Dr. Disrespect. I'm gonna get all kinds of angry fans after that.
Well, didn't you and I have a tongue-in-cheek exchange going about that? Of like, I can be the doctor everybody deserves.
I know.
Yay!
Yeah, that will be way better. But it's awesome. So I'm looking very forward to that, to the ambassador program. And I think you guys have a Patreon as well now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Patreon.com/takethisorg. You can always go help us out there, because one of the things that people don't realize when they come into the AFK rooms, which are stellar rooms, we're bringing it back to PAX West for the 5th time. And they are so complicated to run and make it look like nothing's going on. Yeah. It is so hard to do that. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of resources. Yeah. So I if you want, please go on Patreon, support us as best you can. Please tell your companies, sponsor us.
Sponsor. No, absolutely. Like, I have used the AFK room. I have been there helping you out. It is one of my favorite things at conferences.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I made a good friend at the AFK room when someone came in super stressed, and I remember this very well because her dress broke, and you gave her a pin to fix it. And
I remember that.
Yeah, and that just saved the day. And I was like, Doctor, that was my first impression of you. So that was highly excellent.
Did I give that person a Psychomancer pin or take this logo pin?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, to fix the dress, and that saved the day. So AFK room is fantastic. If you are going to PAX West, because it is soon, it's in a month.
Yeah, it starts actually 28 days. Oh my God.
Sorry, Dr. B.
Oh man, I've got so much to do.
Well, at least this one is on your home turf, right? You don't have to travel as much for it.
Not as much, but for those of us who grew up in Seattle has changed a lot. And if you don't know Seattle, basically think of a really narrow isthmus that's surrounded by water, and there's only 2 highways going north and south, and one of them is often closed. Yeah. So we don't really have a good, reliable public transportation system that's built for the level of growth we've had over the last 30 years. So traffic is, I love it when I go to other cities and they say traffic is bad. I'm like, It takes me an hour to get downtown. It's a 4-mile. Yeah. It's a 4-mile drive.
Yeah, I say like, it's in your home turf. You don't have to travel. But actually, you have to travel every day because you're going to go home by the end of the day.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
This is the longest podcast and chill I've ever done. But it's good. It's all good. So for me, and I am having less and less shame about this, promoting myself, because I realize that not everybody follows me on Twitter. So you can find me at the Hashtagonist, and you can also support me on patreon.com/the Hashtagonist. So if you are listening to this on iTunes, Podbean, all the other things that are just taking my work and putting it on their service, you can find me there and buy me a cup of coffee. Like Tim Hortons, come on, here. Buy me a cup of coffee. But this was great. This is a fantastic episode. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It was great to be invited.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hang out with you again, but we'll make it work.
Let's play D&D. Let's do all DM this time.
Oh, man, that would be so cool. That would be so cool. So, yeah, check out Take This if you're still listening. And if you need help, always reach out, because there's always someone there for you if you know the channels, and it's important for you to know the channels. And if you already know the channels, help a friend. Thank you. We'll talk soon.